OSM channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing an unboxing, installation, and review of this J2 Engineering hard tonneau cover on my 2020 F250. Now, this was the cheapest hard tonneau cover that I could find. I paid $3.99 for it, but since I bought it, this unit has already gone up about $60 in price. But on the flip side, some of the more name brand tonneau covers, I mean, they start at like $800. If you want like a low profile one, you're looking at like $1,000. So to get a hard tonneau cover for $400, I think I'm doing all right so far, but I have no idea what to expect in terms of quality. So we'll see how this video progresses. But I've been on the fence whether I wanted to do a tonneau cover on this truck or not. I'm heading down to the Carolinas. Cab's gonna be full of people and we need a place to put our luggage, so it was kind of necessary at this point. Now, the reason I went with a hard tonneau cover versus a soft is I had a soft on my 05 F-150. Few issues. For one, they don't last long term. The cover I had was a vinyl cover and it lasted about 6 years before it started to crack. Issue number two is soft covers don't really handle snow loads well. They sag and I'm not a huge fan of that, and they stretch a little bit. And issue number three with the soft covers, here's the big one, security. All it takes is for one guy with a razor blade slid through that and then he's in the back of your bed and into all your valuables and tools. So the nice thing with the hard tonneau cover is it offers security. And additionally, the nice thing about these newer trucks is the tailgates will generally automatically lock when you lock the truck. So I'm feeling pretty good about this purchase so far. So without further ado, let's start unboxing this and see what this thing actually looks like. This box is a little bit heavy. I'd say it's probably about 60 pounds, maybe 50. Now this cover is manufactured in China and it came a long way to get here. In terms of packaging, I think it needs a little bit more improvement, especially around the corners. There's no styrofoam here, so I'm really hoping that we don't have any damage on these corners. Yeah, they have this thing wrapped up in this big umbrella body bag type sack. Different. I don't know what I'm going to do with it after the fact, but... Now the first thing the instructions want you to do is to ensure that you have all the hardware. So the hardware is going to come in a long, thin, rectangular box. I already removed the hardware, put it off to the side. I'll show you that here momentarily. But I was missing the seal strip. The instructions state that we need to install seal strip on the front bulkhead of the truck bed. I wanted to show you that that seal strip is going to be hiding, kind of recessed into your bed cover. Just look for the white line and that is your seal strip. So let's go ahead and get this out of here. Here's a quick look at the hardware that comes included in the unit. So once you have the truck bed cover up onto the truck bed rails, be careful that you don't make this mistake. Be careful that you don't have this backwards. So at first glance, you see the logo on the back of the cover and you figure, well, this must face towards the tailgate. That is actually incorrect in my case. This logo is just taped on here temporarily for shipping purposes. You can see the adhesive back there. So that's something that we can install later if we so choose. But this panel is actually going to face towards the front of the truck. There should be two screw holes where these buckles come down on either side of the panel, right? So there's a buckle right here and a buckle right here. So these buckle mounts are actually going to get screwed down to these two pre-drilled holes. And where these buckle mounts sit, that is the side that is going to face the front of the truck. So we'll install these buckle mounts, we'll lift this up, rotate it 180 degrees. Alright, now that we have those buckle clips installed, let's go ahead and rotate this cover 180 degrees and we'll move these buckle clips towards the back window. Alright, so it's really challenging to figure out where this is exactly going to line up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that seal strip, install it on the back bulkhead here, so this is going to get a full piece, but the instructions also say to take whatever's left over and just have it go down the bed rails a little bit here. All right, so I have this bed cover positioned to where I think it should be. Tips I have, just ensure that it goes down your long rails evenly, and then the corners of the bed cover should be, again, about plumb with the corners of your bed rail trim. So what we need to do now is fold the cover back up, fold it towards the cab, and we're going to start securing this to the bed rails. All right, now we're underneath the bed cover. This is the front of the truck bed, so on the other side of this is the cab. What we're gonna need now are these 2 aluminum clamps, and we're also gonna need these 2 threaded nuts. Now, these clamps are gonna, see the channel right there? So these are gonna hook underneath the bed rail channel, like so. And if you look underneath the cover here, there's a piece of threaded rod that's taped up, and this will slide in its channel to adjust for different truck beds, I suppose, so you can see we can slide that nice and close. So we'll take this, slide it up threaded rod, ensuring that that channel locks onto our bed rail channel. What's going on here? There we go. And I do really like that these clips are aluminum. Now we need to install our twist-on nut and ensure that the little stubby part of the twist-on nut faces up. If you look, brass side should face down, and if you install it backwards, then that brass nut could actually pull right out of there. So let's tighten this down. Now we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now let's fold the cover over one time. Above your fender wells, look up at the underside of the cover, and you'll notice that on either side of the truck there's a piece of threaded rod that's going to be taped up in the channels of the truck bed cover. Now, go ahead and locate all of your plastic handles. You should have 4 of these. So these plastic handles have a pressed through piece of rod, and in the center of that rod there's a threaded section. So what's going to happen, you're going to take the threaded rod, insert it through the hole on this handle, and then just line up the threaded rod with the threading on the pressed through pin, and that's going to be what keeps this handle secured to the threaded rod. But just ensure that you don't misthread this. Take your time, ensure you get threads lined up properly, and we're going to rotate this up, and that's going to be a little bit of a problem. So I'm having a small issue. Now my bed cover is positioned perfectly. I don't want to change the position of this at all. Now when I take this handled clamp and go to secure it on my bed rail, there's interference with my bed liner. So I think I'm just going to modify this liner. I'm going to take an angle grinder and just cut this on an angle so this can sneak up in here and clamp down properly. I hate to modify the truck bed liner, but for me it's more important that the contents of what's inside my truck bed stay dry versus what a little ding in my bed liner looks like. So let's go ahead and test out this clamp. Again, there's a little channel there, so that hooks right on the rail. And like a little bit of the plastic lifts up. You can cut this if you want. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. But now when I go and lift up on this cover, it's nice and secure. A really important thing that I got to mention though is when you want to fold this cover over, notice that there's these little receivers for the handles. So what you want to do is just fold it, I guess, this way, and ensure that it stays clamped in that little receiver out there. That way when you fold it over, that threaded rod doesn't poke through the bed cover. So this is looking good. Let's do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll do the clamps on the back, and that should just about complete this job. With those 2 middle clamps installed, let's go ahead and flip the cover over 2 more times. And then the last panel towards the tailgate, again, there's going to be a threaded rod that just drops down in this sliding panel, so go ahead and install the handles. Alright, now let's lift up this tailgate and see how the seal works with the tailgate. So it does make a little bit of contact, which is almost a good thing. I don't know if you can tell on camera too, but this piece does bow down a little bit. I don't know if that's intentional or not. That seems to seal up pretty well with the tailgate. I'm really happy with that seal on the tailgate. It did lift up these corners just a little bit, but looking at that seal, we'll have to correct that seal in a moment here, but for the most part, I mean, it's pretty darn good. So the small issue I can see is that this seal is kind of folded over on itself in some locations. Now, I'm hoping that over time it'll kind of flare out onto the truck bed rails, but to correct this for now, I'm going to try and take just a flathead screwdriver and correct this, and this is working just fine. There's another spot down here that I got to fix. So same thing on this other side here, just have to take a flathead screwdriver or something and correct this seal. I'm really hoping that I'm not going to have to do this every time I fold the cover on and off. Alright, now let me go over my initial impressions of the bed cover here, and I'm going to bounce around quite a bit here. So first and foremost, I'd say it actually looks pretty excellent on the truck. I was a little bit nervous about this being an above the rail bed cover, that it wouldn't really match with the truck. But the black pretty well matches my back window, it pretty well matches the trim. And the profile of it, yes, it does stick up maybe 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches, but I think it looks pretty slick. And you got to remember too that this is the cheapest hard bed cover that is available. So in terms of finish, I mean, the paint's really even. They did a nice job on the paint. It's like maybe like a semi-gloss black. It's not really too shiny, but it gives a little bit of shine. I'm really curious to see how well the color holds up over the years with the UV rays from the sun beating down on the cover. Something I do really like is that there are 4 panels, right? So this is a tri-fold, right? 1, 2, 3. And this is a short bed truck. This is like 6'8" truck bed, if I'm not mistaken. As where most other hard covers on the market that fold, those are only 3 panel or a dual fold, right? Because it folds over once and then folds over twice. The nice thing about this having 4 panels and being a tri-fold is that when you do need to fold this cover up towards the front of the cab, it allows you to have more vertical truck bed space to use, right? Like if you want to throw a pallet in the back here, I feel like that'd be no problem. As where with tri-fold, not 100% sure it's going to fit back there with the tailgate being down. So that is something I really like about this bed cover. But also, I am curious, you know, there's more seams. How waterproof is this cover? The real test is going to be when I'm driving down the road at 60, 70 miles an hour, and we'll see if there's any water intrusion. I'm sure there's probably going to be a little bit, but I will update in the comments section down below as to how well that it repels water, it keeps water out of the truck bed. Another big question I have is, you remember seeing a short while ago that I had to train this rubber seal to flare out. I'm really curious if every time I go to unfold this cover, am I going to have to take a flathead screwdriver and fix these seals? I really hope not. I hope that they train themselves to flare out. I think they will after they heat up a few times in the sun, but that is another big question I have. Now, in terms of security, I would say it's a lot better than a soft cover, right? Because again, with the soft cover, vinyl tonneau cover, heat comes in, razor blade, he's in. With this, I feel like this being a hard cover, it's automatically a little bit more of a deterrent. But if you get the right thief, I mean, you got to remember, those are plastic handles. If I were to come up to this corner and start prying on this with all my might, I mean, you can see there's a little bit of flex already. But if I wanted to bear this open, you know, somebody could, no problem. But you ever hear the saying, out of sight, out of mind? This, again, being a hard cover, I think it's a good theft deterrent to begin with. Now, something you may be asking is, well, can't you just clamp down that plastic handle a little bit more? I could crank it down a little bit more, but I'm a little bit hesitant to, because that's another thing. I'm worried about those handles breaking. I really wish that those handles were aluminum. If there's going to be any failure point on this cover besides the seals, I would say that it would most definitely be those plastic handles. Right, so if you overcrank those, who's to say they aren't going to break? Hopefully they're glass fiber reinforced, which means that they're a much stronger polymer plastic. I'm not really sure how they're manufactured. I mean, again, it's the cheapest price range truck bed cover on the market, so we'll have to see how the handles hold up. But to get back to
my point here. I am a little bit worried about putting too much strain on those handles. So at the end of the day, I'd say I'm satisfied with what I got. It looks sharp on the truck. Quality is pretty darn good. And I will just have to update you as to how well this holds up over time. So that's going to conclude this video. Thanks for watching. As always, I will catch you on the next one.